Let me make sure LBJ and John Paul Young are on here.
I'm here.
Perfect. I need those guys.
And we should be live now, whenever
All
you're
right.
ready to start the meeting.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. We will call our Caddo Parish Commission meeting to session. This is our regular meeting agenda. It's July the 9th at 3:31 p.m. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Present.
Commissioner Johnson,
Present.
Commissioner Jackson,
Hey, okay, hold on just a second. I'm logging on to the Zoom meeting.
Okay, sorry. Commissioner Young, Commissioner Young, are you there? Okay, Commissioner Burrell, Commissioner Cawthorn, Commissioner
Present.
Gage Watts. I see Commissioner Cawthorn. Dang, I wonder if he was just muted. Commissioner Cawthorn, can you hear us?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Taliaferro.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Here.
Commissioner Epperson.
Yeah.
All right. It looks like we have, let's see, 1, 2, 8, 9 now, because it looks like John Paul's just joined us. So we've got 9 present and 3 absent.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Everson. Welcome all and commissioners. We will start and we will have our invocation by Vice President Johnson, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner John Paul Young.
Let us bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to serve the citizens of Caddo Parish. Father, I ask that you would touch our hearts and give us understanding for things that we know and things that we don't know. Father, we pray for peace in our community, peace in our state, peace within our country and our world. Father, we ask that you will govern us to do the things that are right in our hearts and in your heart as well. These things we ask in your son, Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're an active service member or veteran, you may salute. Otherwise, place your hand on your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Whatever you are.
Thank you, commissioners. Mr. Everson, do we have any agenda additions?
I'm not aware of any unless there's any.
I have none either.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
We'll move on to citizens' comments. We do have a very high number of citizens' comments today.
Okay.
So we have received most of those electronically. What I'll do is start reading those, and then I'll check in periodically with Deputy Clerk Nations, who will be manning the phones. That phone number for anybody interested in calling in is 226-6596. And again, I'll be reading the messages that we've received electronically. And ready to start when you're ready.
May I interject briefly, Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to remind us of our principle of allowing 15 minutes per side per topic in case it goes over.
Thank you, John Paul Young. Mr. Everson, do you have citizens' comments arranged in topics?
I have them as best as we can arranged by topic. Now, by where the person falls on the item, not necessarily, but I do have them arranged by topic.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, are y'all ready for me to proceed?
Yes, sir.
We'll go with public comments on resolution number 51. And I'll begin. The first one is from Caroline Crettel, who said, I'm emailing you to express my concerns with plans to lease Cross Lake to oil and gas companies. Clean water is essential to any community, especially during the time of a global pandemic. Clean water is essential to the health of our community and for us to recover from the global pandemic that we are currently facing. The consequences that oil and gas extraction has on the environment is huge and could not only contaminate our drinking water, but also destroy the wildlife habitats in the area. Please consider the risks of what oil and gas extraction in Cross Lake may have on our environment, our drinking water, and our health. Respectfully, Caroline Crettel. The next one comes from Gretchen Upton. It says, my name is Gretchen Upton. I'm a Caddo Parish citizen. Being such, I am incredibly concerned about the recent propositions for lease sales of parish land to the oil and gas industry. I know the danger that oil and gas poses to not just our environment and air, but especially to our drinking water, which this sale proposed for Thursday's vote comes far too close to. I'm disappointed to see Shreveport regress by investing more in oil and gas and less in renewables, but this is a simpler problem than that. This is the safety of our drinking water that is at stake, and I know Shreveport won't sit back and allow you all to pollute it. The next comment comes from Ellen Stetson, who says, I am strongly opposed to any oil and gas drilling near, under, or anywhere near Cross Lake. We simply cannot afford to jeopardize our drinking water supply. Our lives and livelihoods depend on clean, accessible water. Please count my opinion strongly against this proposal. And then the next comment comes from Ms. Christy Cousins, who writes, I urge you to vote no on Resolution 51. One more oil and gas extraction lease is too many for Caddo Parish. I'm deeply concerned this activity is happening so close to our area's source of drinking water, my children's source of drinking water. The money or business interest is not worth poisoning the population. No more, thank you. The next comment comes from Mr. John Soul, and he says, I am submitting my opposition to Resolution 51. Beside the obvious risk to our drinking water supply, which I do not believe is worth taking as an outdoor guide and enthusiast, frankly, it is getting harder to take and show others the natural splendors of our area. We must protect the essential need for safe drinking water and undeveloped green space. The next comment comes from Pamela McPherson, who says, as a physician and a mother, I implore you to vote against any resolution that threatens our water supply, and specifically to block Resolution 51. I am against oil and gas extraction near Cross Lake. Please protect our health. Rachel Damaskell is the next comment, and she says, I am concerned about the impacts of extracting oil and gas near the city's water source. The land that drains into the lake affects the quality of the water. Industrial activity can expose sediment that washes into the water and affects photosynthesis and the whole food chain. Spilled oil and gas and even leaked diesel, gasoline, and motor oil from the machinery can pollute the water and negatively impact the environment. A healthy watershed is important not only for wildlife, but also for all of the people of Shreveport. The value of our water quality far exceeds the dollars we could make from extraction of those fossil fuels. Please vote no on Resolution 51. The next comment is from Matthew Meyer, and he says, this is a public comment about Resolution 51. I am concerned about oil and gas extraction so close to our Shreveport drinking water. Our water is the most critical resource we have in our community. It should not be put in jeopardy under any circumstances. Please vote no on Resolution 51. The next comment is from Mary Ragsdale. Extracting oil close to our water supply is foolish. Additionally, it will be a federal security issue given the Barksdale Air Force Base's watershed. We need fresh water not only to live, but for the wildlife habitat, which continues to generate revenue from sportsmen. The next comment comes from Kay McPherson, who says, I would like to express my concern over proposed oil and gas extraction near Cross Lake, which is Shreveport's water source. Informed citizens in Caddo Parish are against this. Commissioners are elected to do the right thing for our parish. We expect them to do so. Vote no on Resolution 51. The next comment is from Aldavus Bradley McPherson, who says, 50 years ago, I moved to Shreveport to become a professor at Centenary College. At that time, there was a controversy over building a bridge over Cross Lake. Eventually, a compromise was made, and the first self-drainage bridge in the United States was built in order to protect the water supply for Shreveport, Louisiana. Now, 50 years later, our parish leaders are considering drilling and fracking near the water supply. The desire for money should not ever rule the need for a safe water supply for Shreveport. Please vote no. The next comment comes from Mr. Sean Cassingham, who says, any small risk to our water supply is too high. Thank you. The next comment comes from Kathy Osuch, who says, please vote against this proposal. We cannot afford to pollute our water supply, and we recently had such a glut of oil that they could not give it away. Don't do all this destruction to support an industry in decline. The next comment comes from James Ivory Woods and says, hello, Caddo Commissioners. I've lived in Shreveport and the surrounding areas my whole life, and clean water has always been made available to me. It is very important to me and to the health of our community that we continue to have drinking water, that we continue to have clean drinking water. The Bureau of Land Management did not notify the public at least 12 days prior to the transaction as required by the Environmental Policy Act. This is very unsettling and disrespectful. The people of Shreveport would like to keep our clean water and be notified when oil and gas companies want to or are in the process of buying land. I'm urging all of you not to pass this resolution. Please consider yourselves, all of us, and the environment, not just the oil money. Thank you for your consideration and for your accurate representation of the community's best interests. The next comment comes, oh, and I'm sorry, before that, Deputy Clerk Nations, are there any callers on the telephone line?
Yes, we have 2 callers.
Would you like to go ahead and connect them now? I hate for them to have to wait.
Sure. Hold on one second. Miss Sneed, are you still on the line? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put you on speaker. State your name, and you have 3 minutes for your comment, okay? Okay, you can go ahead with your comment.
Yes, my name is Mississippi Sneed. I'm calling because I want to take the time to commend the people at the animal mosquito shelter, because I had a problem with a raccoon intimidating me coming into my bathroom closet. But anyway, it frightened me, so I immediately called the animal shelter for help. And I spoke with assistant director, I think his name was Kelvin Samuels, and he immediately showed concerns to my issue. Got in touch with a officer, I think his name was McDonald. But anyway, I just had to give those people in that office the credit due them and let people know. Don't hesitate when you got a problem to call, but make sure you ask for that assistant director, Kevin Samuel. He took good care of me. He sent Officer McDowell out, and Officer McDowell was very kind enough to come and trying to help me with my problem. So they don't only just pick up animals. I found out they come and help you out on other issues as well. So this is my, I wanted to give them that applaud from me.
Okay, does that conclude your comment?
Excuse me?
Does that conclude your comment?
Yes, ma'am. Just mainly yes.
Okay, well, you have a good day. Thank you.
As well, for now.
Bye. Reverend McLean, are you still on the line? Okay, if you hold on one moment, I'll put you on speaker. Just state your name and you have 3 minutes, okay? All right, hold on one second. Okay, you can go ahead.
Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Azrael McLean, Associate Minister of Living Union Baptist Church. I'm also the chairman of the Social Justice Committee for the Baptist Pastors Fellowship of Shreveport. I'm here to support the masking ordinance for the safety of our citizens in lieu of the virus. I think the one thing I would ask the august members of this body to consider, one, secondhand germs, just like secondhand smoke. I wear a mask whenever I go out to be sure I don't catch it from those who don't wear a mask. But I think the way to fight this thing, everybody has to mask up, because to me it's like inhaling secondhand germs like and secondhand smoke. Two, please remember the Judeo-Christian concept and ideas come before property. People first for property. I understand the business community is concerned about this, but I will also say that in the Christian New Testament scheme of things, we put people first. We're going to get through this thing. We've got to work together. And third, if we don't get a handle on this, it's going to essentially cripple, if not bankrupt, our medical health care facilities because there's so much sickness. Every day as a pastor, I'm hearing 2, 3, 4, 5 cases of this virus. I hope and pray that the august members of the commission would do the right thing, go ahead and pass the order. Thank you, and God bless you.
Does that conclude your comment?
Well, just remember that we all in the same boat, even though we're different sides of the ship, we're still in the same boat with this thing. God bless you. Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
it.
You have a good day.
Thank you.
That's all the callers that we have on the line.
Thank you very much. I'll continue with the email public comments. Karen Guerin said, please no drilling in close proximity to our drinking water supply. Sherry Monkla said, please no on resolution 51. Greg Guerin said no to resolution 51. Too many people are reliant on the Cross Lake watershed for survival. Should the lake become contaminated, which is all too probable, then Shreveport would be forced into even more dire circumstances than it already is. Then Keonta Stewart says, vote no on resolution 51, please. The next one comes from Carrie McNamara, who says on Thursday, July 9th, please vote no on resolution 51, which if passed would open portions of Caddo Parish, including areas within Cross Lake, to leasing for oil and gas exploration and extraction. Cross Lake is the primary source of potable water to thousands of households, businesses, and institutions in the greater Shreveport area. Maximally protecting this natural resource is critical to the health and well-being of the citizens of Caddo Parish and beyond. Oil and gas exploratory and extractive practices are inherently damaging to the environment, involving but not limited to land use alterations, intrusive infrastructure, and the introduction of polluting and potentially harmful toxic compounds and substances, which may impact all 3 critical environmental matrices, namely soil, air, and water. With the current downturn in the oil and gas industry worldwide, due not only to limitations of storage capacity in an already glutted market, but also a marked downturn in consumer demand, there is no need to increase the footprint of such potentially hazardous industry any further upon the Northwest Louisiana region. Thank you for your consideration in this critical matter. The next comment comes from Christina Camille Gladney Smoots. And she says, hello, my name is Camille Gladney Smoots, and I'd like to register a comment in regards to tomorrow's vote on resolution 51. I urge our policymakers to vote no. We must preserve our drinking water and choose the health of our citizens over possible profit. Thank you. The next comment comes from Susan Caldwell. Ms. Caldwell says, although I am a resident of Bossier City, I work in Shreveport as a director of religious education at All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, and thus most of my congregants get their drinking water from Cross Lake. I am opposed to the sale of oil leases currently under consideration and have registered a public comment with the Bureau of Land Management to that effect. We have seen over and over the failure of so-called safe drilling practices and the havoc it has wreaked throughout the country on the land and on the health of our citizens, but particularly in our own region. We must find more sustainable sources of energy and commerce. Thank you for your time and attention. The next comment comes from Dakota Ferry, who writes, on Thursday, please vote no on resolution 51, which if passed would open portions of Caddo Parish, including areas within Cross Lake, for leasing of oil and gas exploration and extraction. Cross Lake, this is fairly identical to the comment 2 comments ago. But Cross Lake is the primary source of potable drinking water for thousands of households, businesses, and institutions in the greater Shreveport area. Maximally protecting the natural resource is critical to the health and well-being of the citizens of Caddo Parish and beyond. Then let's see, Nettie Brown said, I spent years working with the Shreveport Water Department, and I know how hard they work to have a safe, good-looking water supply. We are already in need of infrastructure repairs, and drilling may threaten an already fragile system. We only have one water supply, and if it gets contaminated, we could be in danger. You can't live long without water. The most recent water quality reports were actually very good. Let's protect that hard work and protect the water supply. Next comment comes from Gus Demarath, who writes, I am a Shreveport citizen, and I am emailing to ask that the commission does not pass Resolution 51 to sell the land beneath and around Cross Lake. This would not benefit the people of Shreveport and puts our drinking water supply in danger. The next comment comes from Candace Batiste, who says, today a vote will be held that will impact Cross Lake and therefore our drinking water. I'm requesting that you vote no to selling off the rights to drill oil and gas since it includes our primary drinking water source. The next comment is from Mr. Mitch Norris, who says, I am humbly asking for a no vote regarding Resolution 51 and asking that our drinking water be protected. Thank you for your time. The next comment comes from Ebony Mitchell, who writes, now Ms. Mitchell's comments are identical to the comments that we received from Mr. Ferry and two of the previous comments. Would you like me to read these repeat comments, or do you want me to just note that that is a repeat? Hello?
As the parliamentarian, I'd say I think we're bucking up against the 15-minute timeline on
That's what I thought. And this next one is the longest one. After this, we'll move on to another subject. I may have received some in the interim, but this concludes the list. This comment comes from Francis Kelly, who says, I am writing to ask you to vote no on Resolution 51 and to take further action to protect our drinking water supply. We have the right to clean water, and you should do everything you can to protect that right. Some of you may believe this is not your responsibility because the State Department of Natural Resources approves permits for drilling, and the state previously sued the city of Shreveport on this issue. But the risks are too great for you to stay silent. You should join the citizens calling for Cross Lake to be protected by contacting the governor and the Department of Natural Resources and asking them not to permit oil and gas extraction this close to our drinking water source. Fracking has contaminated drinking water sources across the country. A Duke University study focused on 4 states documented 6,600 spills over a 10-year period. A study in Pennsylvania found contamination in 82% of drinking water samples near fracking operations. Multiple scientific studies have linked fracking to serious health problems, including childhood leukemia, lymphoma, bladder, and thyroid cancers. One study found that pregnant women who lived near fracking sites had a 40% increased risk of having a premature baby. Another study found an increase in congenital heart defects and possible neural tube defects for babies born near fracking sites. Fracking chemicals can cause cancer, affect the endocrine system, and affect the brain's, kidneys, nervous system, immune, and cardiovascular systems. The Yale School of Public Health found that 157 chemicals used in fracking were associated with either reproductive or developmental toxicity. Their study also found that the majority of chemicals known to be used in fracking had not been adequately studied, and their toxicity is unknown. The city of Shreveport does not have the resources or the technological capacity to test for these chemicals and remove them from the water. Trying to adequately test and clean water that has been contaminated with fracking chemicals would be nearly impossible and extremely expensive. Congress passed an exemption from the Safe Drinking Water Act for fracking, and companies are not legally required to disclose what chemicals they use because they claim it is confidential business information. It is impossible to test our drinking water for chemicals that we don't know the identity of. In addition, many of the chemicals that we do know are used in fracking, such as per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, persist and accumulate in the human body for decades, causing serious health problems even at low levels of exposure, and are very difficult to test for accurately. Consider who would pay to test and exempt to clean up the water and when it becomes contaminated. It would end up being the taxpayers, not the company responsible. The oil and gas industry always claims their drilling methods and pipelines are safe and technologically advanced, despite a track record of spills and contaminations. But even if the casing for the current proposed drilling did not leak, new fractures can create new pathways of communication between new wells to old wells, and the toxic fracking chemicals can leak from old wells into the drinking water supply. Do not shirk your responsibility to protect our health and protect our water supply. Vote no on the resolution and use your influence at the state to ensure that our drinking water is safe. And that concludes the comments on Resolution 51 that had been received prior to the meeting. The next section of comments are regarding loosely about masking and COVID-related issues. The first one is from Mr. Harry Haynes, who says, if the commission waters down the mandate, what good is it? Either require the mask or drop it. Hopefully the commission will pay little attention to the crybabies that seem to be afraid of a mask. Obviously, they do not care whether they are putting others at risk or not, typically selfish. The next comment comes from Mr. Nick Jordan. It says, I'm writing to express my concern over the potential mask ordinance being considered by the commission. I have several concerns. The impact on businesses who are already in trouble. People will choose to shop, eat out less frequently than they are now. This overreach and overreaction by different levels of government is crushing the economy. Overreach of government should not be making personal safety decisions for individuals. This is a slippery slope. What will the government force me to do next in the name of public safety? Will you force me to get a vaccine? Will you force me to get tested every month? Will you force me to wear some device that constantly displays my temperature? And so on and so on. The expectations of the CPSO will be the enforcement function. And you know they will get calls about it. A waste of manpower and time for an organization that has more important things to do. The amendment to hire a private security, what a waste of CARES Act funds. These funds should be going to help struggling businesses. This is a very questionable solution in search of a problem. Of course, cases are rising. More testing equals more cases. Some are getting tested multiple times, and each time there is a positive test, even for the same person. It is counted as another case. Even if it is a lower risk person, younger, healthier, why are we so concerned if they get the virus? How many people you know who have never had the flu? I don't know many. The high-risk individuals should choose to do whatever is necessary to protect themselves, choose being the operative word. I hope you will carefully consider the impact of this, making a bad decision worse for business, and what the proper role of this government body is. The next comment comes from Kay Lester, who says, Caddo Parish does not need a mask mandate. The people of this parish want to decide for themselves about health issues. It's not the government's job to micromanage our individual lives. Please vote against the mask mandate. The next comment is from Ms. Jane Tappy, who says, I don't even have the words to address you all. You would back someone who calls himself a mayor that has threatened to turn off the water to businesses that do not comply to his will. A so-called mayor that would threaten to shut down businesses if they don't comply, to actually prevent them from opening. Are you really going to do that? Are you going to back him up in this? There is no way or how that I could list all the things wrong with this. The numbers themselves are false. The lies that have been told are all lies. They are all false. We are not in danger from Corona. We are in danger from the demigod who calls himself mayor and whoever else thinks they have the right to threaten businesses and livelihoods and food on the table for all business owners. Not to mention the stupid move really just makes people take the simple route. They will cross over the bridge and go to Bossier. Have you lost your mind? The entire farce from Not My Mayor is politically in every sense of the word. It is unconstitutional, and I hope and pray someone has the money to sue him personally before they go after the city, because it will happen. I hope you all understand this. He's personally going to take the whole city down. The next comment comes from Martha Williams, who says, I wear my masks everywhere, every time. I am in the medical sector. I wear my mask from 7:30 to 4:30. I eat without it for 30 minutes. I gladly would rather wear my mask than be very sick with COVID. I refuse to take a chance. I am protecting myself and my patients. I also would rather work with a mask than be stuck at home broke. Masks make sense. Not wearing them is crazy. We just don't know enough about this disease to take chances with people's lives. Please concern your vote. Stay safe and healthy. We need all of you. The next comment comes from Beth Waldrop, who says, please do not extend the mask mandate outside of the 30-day order already in place in Shreveport. I can give you a list of facts, reasons, and opinions, but only one side of the aisle will agree or even give any credence to them. So I ask you to err on the side of common sense, history, human decency, and to please not take away our healthcare rights any further. If masks work, then yours will protect you. If distancing works, then stay away from crowds or individuals. Quarantine and masks are historically ordered for the sick or weak who need protection, not for the well. And for the vast majority of us are well, not sick, recovered, asymptomatic, well. We are people made for human touch, interaction, and community. COVID-19 is not the threat, it's the overreach of government, the 24/7 news cycles, the ever-growing number of social media experts who are killing us. People will die, thousands every day. Shootings, suicides, car wrecks, cancer, murder, overdoses, and various other diseases. We live in a fallen and broken world where we will all die. But shutting down businesses, social events, schools, churches, our lives has never been and never will be the answer. I believe crime rates are rising because people are just flat angry on both sides of the aisle. We're becoming hateful, vengeful, rude, name-calling society. This should not be. Too many are not working and have no purpose or goals in life. Businesses are struggling with so many restrictions and decreased capacities. Children and young adults have been separated from friends and classmates for far too long. Senior adults have been isolated from family and human touch. Not seeing smiles on faces and hugs from friends is tragic and just plain wrong. Isolation, masks, and excessive sanitizing only leads to weakened immune systems and prolongs this viral threat. We're so polarized, so divided as a city, parish, state, country, and world, and the divide is widening. So I ask you to please not extend this madness any further. We are a free nation with rights, God-given rights, and the rights brought with the blood of Americans who have fought for it for more than 244 years. We should have the right to protect ourselves and the means of having a choice to mask or not mask. Thank you for your time. God help us and God bless you all as you make wise choices for Caddo Parish. The next comment comes from Mr. Nick Jordan, who writes, I wish to express my concerns over the potential mask ordinance being considered by the commission. Now, Mr. Jordan did write a separate comment, so I'm going to pass this comment over. It's very similar to his last comment. It just was submitted separately. Let's see. The next one comes from Camille Gladney, who says, it is a shame we must pass laws to ensure common decency and respect, but no one has the right to harm others with their ignorance. Mask up, Louisiana. When you wear a mask, you protect others. When others wear a mask, they protect you. Cindy White wrote, I am Cindy White, owner of Clean Air Systems of Louisiana, a minority-owned business. I am a registered Native American Indian, Chickasaw. My business is located in District 10, and Mr. Chavez is our commissioner. I wish to express my opposition to a mandated order requiring face masks. My company is an HVAC contracting company, and we also do mold remediation. I have an LA State Commercial Antimicrobial Pesticide Applicators certification and LA State Commercial Owner-Operated license, so I'm very knowledgeable concerning respiratory protection. We wear full face respirators when performing mold remediation and N95 masks when performing HVAC cleaning and restoration. Outside of these types of respiratory protection, most other types of masks will not protect a person from the tiny particles of the COVID-19 virus. I believe the cotton masks and disposable masks give someone a false sense of protection from COVID-19. In my business, I have very few customers that come to my office since our work is done at their commercial building or residential property. If the commission votes to pass the face mask mandate, how long would businesses be required to comply? What would all types of businesses be required to comply? What is the goal or target that is hoped to be achieved with the face mask mandate is passed? It's a number of cases such as flattening the curve, and if so, what's the number? What are the penalties for non-compliance? Will businesses be penalized for customers' non-compliance? Where does the liability fall in reference to constitutional rights? Thank you for your opportunity to address you at the Caddo Parish Commission. The next comment comes from Mr. Chris Crackman, who writes, let's see, as to Dodge being berated, I'd like to first note that this is my personal opinion, how shameful it is to put such a strain on local businesses because a legal avenue cannot be found to create an unjust law. If a business owner wishes to instill a mask mandate within their private property, that's already their choice. Revised statute 63.3 is law that a proprietor already has the right to use if they so choose as well. So what is the true purpose of this legislation? To further strain business owners and our sheriff deputies? When it is said, we've been urging and pleading for the public from day one to wear masks, but now believe you must mandate it. That means you all think you know better than citizens, in turn are calling your constituents careless fools. The expert opinion on record gives the statistics of hospitalized deaths on the rise. Without detailed facts of pre-existing conditions or if they passed of it what was the cause from COVID-19 or directly from COVID-19. If public safety must be from guesswork, then why don't you all just mandate bubble wrap helmets and steel-toe boots? For those who question your duties as Caddo Parish commissioners, I give you the very first sentence of your charter, section 1-01. All government of right originates with the people. It is founded on their will alone and instituted to protect the rights of the individual. God bless you all, Chris Crackman. And the final one on this subject is from Ms. Bertha Matthews, who writes, my concern is regarding persons who are exempted from wearing a face mask or some type of face covering, particularly number 5. If I'm correct, you're saying persons that go in restaurants, hair salons, nail salons, barbershops, spas, etc. are exempt. Now that COVID is considered to be airborne and these establishments are in confined spaces and people are not there for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, but in some cases for an hour or more, a face mask or some type of face covering would most definitely be warranted. Of course, you can't eat with the mask, but you can wear it when entering and leaving, and there are other guidelines to keep patrons safely distanced. Now, these establishments for grooming services, there's no reason I can come up with that they are exempt. I would really like to understand how you came to that conclusion. The next comment, now this is not on either of those previous subjects, but this is a comment that was, well, first let me check. Deputy Clerk Nations, do we have any other callers on the line?
No.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure. So this is a comment that we received regarding Comcast and Xfinity. Says, I'm hoping you can assist me. I am now a permanent work from home resident in our area who as a lot of folks are totally sick and tired of the unacceptable service from Comcast Xfinity for internet. My internet goes down frequently. When my internet goes down, I do not get paid. I've been sitting here for 4 hours so far. My husband checked and the outage was supposed to be fixed by 2:24. Well, once again, that time has come and gone. We reside in rural Caddo Parish and do not have good choices for internet service. When it comes time to review their contract, please consider other options to provide us rural folks with internet access. I'm listing $23 an hour. Are they going to pay me for my wages that I'm losing? I'm losing $23 an hour. Are they going to pay me for my wages that I'm losing? There has got to be an answer. And before you ask, it's not just me, it's others around me as well. It's not my equipment. And that comes from Ms. Tracy Lang. We have received a few additional public comments as I was reading the other public comments. Would you like me to go ahead and read those?
Absolutely.
Great, okay. These look to be mostly on resolution 51, though there could be some about another subject. Let's see, the first one comes from Jennifer Courtney and says,
Mr. President.
Yes.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
I'm sorry, I was looking, I don't mean to cut you off, the clerk off, but could we let this be the last? I don't know if I need that motion to let this be the last round until the end, to late comments.
We will certainly do that. If that's,
I know they can just keep coming. They can just keep coming. So I don't know if I need to make a motion or what.
What about the 15 minutes that the parliamentarian spoke of?
Yeah,
We should be putting up on that.
I was just asking that anything else after this, I guess, should go at the end.
No, the mask only got 5 more minutes.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem. And certainly we will direct any additional comments towards the end of the meeting from this end if y'all like. So the first comment comes from, let's see, Miss April Dahm. It says, as a resident of Caddo Parish, I feel the science behind masking wearing to prevent the spread of COVID-19 is undeniable. I feel it is my duty not only to protect my family, but fellow citizens as well from those deadly virus. If I were to refuse to wear a mask, I would stay out of public. Science has served humans well over the centuries as we have advanced in medicine and technology, and the simplest task of wearing a mask can save lives. I think that we all owe it to our fellow humans to protect one another, if not only ourselves. I love the freedoms our country is based upon. I feel the freedom to be safe from harm is one of our greatest freedoms. To exercise that freedom, we need to take these temporary measures seriously. And that comes again from Ms. April Dahm. The next comment is from Tabitha Taylor, the City Councilwoman Tabitha Taylor, who says, I'm requesting that you vote no to Resolution 51. I'm asking that you make every effort to protect our water supply. Cross Lake is one of the most valuable resources. I would not like to see drilling of any sort in or close to the lake. As many have already spoken before me, I humbly ask for a no vote. The next comment comes from Jennifer Courtney, and it says, please oppose the Bureau of Land Management oil and gas lease on the federal minerals around Cross Lake. We cannot afford to take a chance on damaging or polluting our water source. It sure seems a lot like biting the hand that feeds you. I understand that revenue is important to our parish, but the health of its citizens is priceless. Please do not allow the Bureau of Land Management to proceed with this deal. And then let's see, I have two more comments, and we're almost done. This one comes from Mr. Joel Utley, who says, I'm writing to ask you to vote no on Resolution 51 and to take further action to protect our drinking water supply. We all have the right to clean water, and you should do everything possible to protect that right. And then he continued, his comments are identical to those made earlier by Bradley McPherson. So it looks like they are a copy. And they end in, do not shirk your responsibility to protect our health and protect our water supply. Vote no on this resolution and use your influence at the state to ensure that our drinking water is safe. So those are duplicate comments. So we'll move on to the final comment is Kern Courtney, who says, please do not approve this lease of mineral rights under the land around the shores of Cross Lake in Northwest Louisiana. Please note that sizable risk for pollution of the only source of drinking water for the residents of Shreveport. Also note that these leases for extracting natural gas is not safer than extracting petroleum, as Commissioner Atkins suggested during Tuesday's meeting. When extracting natural gas, the current hydraulic fracturing process known as fracking may contaminate surface water due to spills and by improper disposal of its resulting wastewater. Groundwater can be contaminated if the fluid is able to escape the shale formation being fractured, impacting citizens with private wells. The environmental impact of a contamination of Cross Lake and nearby underground aquifers would be devastating to our parish and city and the health of hundreds of thousands of residents and tourists. Again, please do not approve the sale of this mineral rights in this area. Thank you for your time. And that concludes the public comments. We did receive a petition that was distributed to commission, and it's on our agenda a little bit later. Would you like me to read? There was a letter accompanying it that I was asked to read during the meeting. Would you all prefer that to come now or later?
Now in public comments.
Yes. Okay. So this it was like I said, this was attached to a petition that is attached to the agenda, and it says, we the citizens of Shreveport, Louisiana, supported by friends, family, tourists, and allies, are requesting that the Confederate monument be removed from the Caddo Parish Courthouse grounds. We are requesting to relocate the monument. If there is a substantial amount of time in between the time it takes for the monument to be relocated, we ask that a resolution be submitted authoring that the monument be covered up either by a black drop cloth or via various decorations that could be used to temporarily transform the exterior. This is a major point of contention in the community. Worse yet, the statue stands directly in front of the entrance to the Caddo Parish Courthouse, where any citizen that enters should feel that there is equal justice for all, regardless of race, religion, and gender, or etc. Please help us obtain relief from this affront to not just the Emancipation Proclamation, but also the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. And he continues, growing up in Shreveport, Louisiana's Ledbetter Heights neighborhood, I would often walk with my mother through downtown to the local Fred's, McDonald's, or Woolworth stores. We would always stay on the sidewalk opposite the Caddo Parish Courthouse. We never walked on the same side as this particular building, and I thought at first it was because of the obvious too many times individuals with white hoods and robes surrounded the structure. When I talked with my mother about it later, when I was 14, that's when I discovered my mother was disturbed about the statue with the flags that sat on the courthouse grounds, celebrating those that defended the cause of 1861 to 1865. The cause was Louisiana's foray into the Civil War. Politicians and plantation owners were concerned that legislature from the legislature from the federal government was going to impact their cheapest business expense, slave laborers. So to protect their economy and way of life, Louisiana seceded from the Union and joined the Confederacy, partnering with Delaware, Maryland, West Virginia, Kentucky, Missouri, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, Texas, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, and Confederate Arizona, which would now be southern New Mexico and portions of southern Arizona. Erected in 1905 and unveiled to the public in 1906, the monument is dedicated to those that fought with or for the Confederacy. With that being said, the most fitting place for this monument would be in Greenwood Cemetery or Oakland Cemetery, sites of various Civil War plots specifically dedicated to those veterans. An alternative location would be within the Louisiana State University Museum in Shreveport, Louisiana, where it would be protected from the natural elements currently experienced outside. The reason this monument should be relocated from the Caddo Parish Courthouse is that no citizen should have to walk by an object that's in front of the main entrance to the courthouse and wonder if they will get equal justice and protection that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution affords to them. At a time when social justice is at the forefront of media, sports, and social discussions, an object that supports the cause of discrimination is an affront to the legal freedoms that are supposed to be afforded to any race, gender, religion, or sexual preference. The Caddo Parish Commission is fighting to have this statue removed, and we are looking to help them with this in any way we can. Let's demand swift, precise action relocating the monument. Let's demand equal justice for all. Remove the knee from Caddo Parish's neck. It's time for the Caddo Monument to go. And that is followed by 107 pages of signatures. And that concludes the public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Next on the agenda.
Yeah, sorry, just trying to catch my breath. Let's see. No problem at all. Next on our agenda is visitors. I'm not aware of any scheduled visitors today. Unless
I don't have any other.
Okay, we move on to adopt regular session minutes. We have the
So
regular
moved.
session minutes attached for June 18th, for the special session minutes of July 2nd, and the special session minutes of July 8th, yesterday's meeting.
All right. I have a motion to adopt by Commissioner Epperson.
Second.
Second.
I believe that second was by Talia Figueroa. All right. That passes by acclamation. Next.
Okay, and then our next one is special resolutions. We have 4 special resolutions before you today. They're all attached if you'd like to look at those. The first one is adopt a special proclamation for the Caddo Parish Animal Shelter, volunteers and fosters. The second one, or do you want to take them up one at a time? Or
Yeah, so moved on, well, we'd have to do it in Globo and adopt. So the chair will motion for the adopt special proclamation for CPOS. If I can get a second.
Second.
All right.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Okay, Hopkins.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to global and adopt all 4 and have them presented at their respective time to their respective persons.
Second.
Absolutely. Got a motion by Commissioner Jackson to global and adopt all 4. Seconded by, is that Cawthorn? That was a second?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Everson, roll call
Okay.
vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Johnson, I didn't hear you. Okay, Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watt,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
That motion passes with 11 in support and 1 out of the chamber.
No, I'm here. Just
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
got booted out. I
So
got
12
booted out.
I'm
It's 12.
sorry.
Yes.
Technology is tough. So, that vote, Commissioner Johnson, was on the Englobo and adopt, and your vote was a yes vote. Is that correct?
Yes, I heard that part. I just got booted out right after that. So
Oh, sorry about that. We will be moving on at the next point of the agenda. We are at communiques and committee reports.
All right.
And
Any commissioners would like to get on communiques, raise your hand or click on the participation button and throw up your hand. Commissioner Epperson, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I would like to acknowledge Colonel D. Peisler, whom all of us probably know. On July the 21st of this year, if it's God's will, he will be 101 years old. He's done so much for the military and the private community during his tenure here. A part of his military history, he's the only living individual that has attained all ranks in the United States Army, from Private E1 all the way up to Warrant Officer 4. He retired as a full bird colonel in the United States Air Force. He is also the only living individual to have a facility on a military base named after him. That's the Retiree Center at Barksdale Air Force Base. So let's all contact Colonel D. Wish him well on July the 21st, where he will attain the age of 101 years. And prior to COVID coming into our lives, Colonel D still worked 5 days a week as a volunteer at the retirees office at Barksdale Air Force Base. Also, I would like to acknowledge Miss Linda Paul, a resident of the Timberline subdivision. She won the June 2020 Beautiful Lawn Contest. Mr. Everson, do you have that photo that I sent that you can put up?
let me see if I can put it up. 1 sec.
Okay, but anyway, want to acknowledge her. Miss Paul and her husband came down from Washington, D.C. and built in Timberline subdivision. He was a Navy veteran and a retiree from the federal government, and they have a beautiful home, and we are very proud to have them win that prestigious award and giving credence to our neighborhood. Also, I would like to acknowledge the town of Greenwood, especially Miss Veronica Brown. She set up 2 weeks ago to give a food donation in conjunction with the Northwest Louisiana Food Bank and the Open Range Church on Highway 80 in Greenwood. And we administered to over 150 needed persons in the community that was in need of food based upon the situation with this current COVID situation. Also, for those of you that may not be familiar, there was a substantial victory for the Keystone Pipeline. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. It's been a fight for quite a while, running that from Alberta, Canada, all the way down, I think, into Texas, that particular oil line, and basically bringing what the Indians that was filed injunctions against it. I think the Dakota Sioux Nation, that it was going through their sacred grounds as well as going through a river, that possibility of potentially polluting that river in the event of a spill. The reason for it being struck down and given 30 days to clear those pipelines was because the proper environmental constraints was not given. Also, to the administration, there, for you all that can see it, there's Miss Linda Paul's home, proud resident of Timberline subdivision, and the winner of the 2020 Shreveport Green Beautiful Lawn Contest. Thank you, Mr. Everson.
Thank
Can you hear
you,
me?
Commissioner Everson.
Okay.
Next, I have Commissioner
All
Jackson.
right. No, I'm not finished, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said
No.
thank you.
No, I told Mr. Everson, thank you for putting up the photo of Miss Paul's home.
Oh, you said thank you, Mr. Everson. I thought you said thanks, Everson.
Thank you myself, huh? Okay. This is to the administration. If there's a possibility of getting the names of business entities, be they profit, non-profit, secular, or religious, that receive CARES funding in Caddo parishes in reference to the CARES Act. So, Dr. Wilson, did you read me on that?
Yes, sir, I heard you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
In other words, any business entity, whether they profit, non-profit, religious, secular, if they receive funding from the CARES Act relative to that bill that was passed in conjunction with the pandemic that we're suffering. Also, Mr. Wilson, maybe if you could get a staffer that's listening, if they can contact Mr. Spence's office and see what the status of everything looking for Saturday's election. If he fully staffed as far as his person that we're going to man the precincts and make sure that we aren't going to have any precincts that'll be closed down or short. And if you can make that phone call someone and give us that information later on in the meeting today. Okay, now, Mr. Chairman, thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have just a question for Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir.
We heard a lot of comments today about the drilling near Cross Lake, and a couple of them said that something about the National Environmental Protection Act and the BLM they thought had not proceeded properly according to normal notice requirements.
I'm not sure about that, sir. They do give us notice because we knew about it. That's why it was on your agenda today.
Right.
So I can't tell you.
I know we've seen it at the commission. Yes. Do you know if they notified the public? Is there any way if we can find out if they followed their notice requirements?
I mean, all agencies throughout the government is notified on the potential of a drilling operation, and they'll post it on their website. I don't know how far down they drill down and give public information other than through that medium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that you know of, like at the state government or at a federal agency, that we could contact to get those facts from them?
Yes, sir. We can probably call the Department of Natural Resources and ask what's their process. But typically, they notify every governmental body. Everybody associated with the lake. Also, the city of Shreveport is notified. The environmental department is notified. We all are.
Okay. Thank you. I'll follow up with you about it later. Thank you very much.
Okay. You're welcome, sir.
That's all, Mr. President.
Thanks, Commissioner Young. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I just wanted to, I was gonna mention that election day is July 9th, 2020. So not July 9th, I'm sorry. This coming weekend, July 11th. I apologize. 2020, make sure you go out and vote. Then I also wanted to ask administration, Dr. Wilson, you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Wanted to get an update on the disparity study. I know we had a meeting I think either early this year or late last year, where we said we were going to have like a big community meeting before everything got started, and then COVID happened and we had to stop. So if we could get with the court and let's discuss, even if we have to have that community meeting virtually, I think we should be able to. We know how to use Zoom, but what we want to do is, before we go forward with any formal study, we want to engage the community to see, what are the issues, what do they want to see from the study? Well, not necessarily what they want to see, but what are their expectations before we actually go out and do that. Then, do we know if the school board ever came on board or ever start participating? And if we don't know, can we kind of find out?
Yes, sir, we'll find out. We can find out the status of the RFP.
Okay.
we'll get with attorney at the port.
Okay.
And he's doing an RFP on that. We'll get an update.
The free state of the port.
Pardon me?
The free state of the port of Caddo Parish.
The port of Caddo Bossier.
The free state of the port of Caddo Bossier. Thank you.
Okay.
And just want to continue to encourage citizens to take advantage of the free COVID-19 testing. We have exceeded well over 2,500 tests. We are pushing up to our capacity or to our limit of people that we kind of had budgeted from the commission. And so this partnership between LSU Health as well as Caddo Parish, I think has been a great reward. We thought that it was just going to be individuals in certain areas, but what we're seeing is people all across Caddo Parish come out for the COVID-19 testing. And so we want to continue. We're not out of the waters. Yes, it is true when you do increase your testing capacity, you will see your cases go up. But we're also seeing hospitalizations go up, and we're starting to see the deaths. The numbers in the deaths daily are starting to become a bit of a concern. So we're not out of the waters on that, and want to continue to encourage our residents to take advantage of that free opportunity. I believe that we're going to meet tomorrow to kind of map out some more dates and work with Dr. White to have a community-wide calendar. So I appreciate everybody who's worked on that, and we'll look forward to following up with the group once we meet tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Burrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of things here. First of all, going back to the election on July 11th, which is Saturday, I just want to reemphasize that. But at the same time, I had applied for an absentee ballot because I've made that golden age of over 50, in which we are able to get a letter from the Secretary of State stating that we could apply for absentee ballot. The only problem is that the letter is from the Secretary of State is very confusing for anyone who wind up getting one like I did. It stated on there 2 primary dates, which was July 11th and August 15th, without explaining that August 15th was actually a local election for Greenwood. It was so confusing to me, I wound up calling the commission clerk, Jeff Everson, to check on that for me, and he got in contact with the Register of Voters, Dale Sibley, and he explained then that the 15th date was actually for Greenwood. July 11th date is our standard primary date. So for anyone who's gotten a letter like that, it can be confusing because there was an application. You have to make application also for an absentee ballot, and it has on there specifically what dates do you want your ballots for. And it was confusing to me because it was 2 primary dates, so I didn't know which one to pick at first, but now I know it's July 11th, since I know the other one is for Greenwood, and then you had the general election on the 3rd of November. So hopefully, I asked the Register of Voters if they would contact the Secretary of State and make it a little clearer for those who will be receiving it. The second thing that I have on my agenda is the meeting that we had with Sheriff Prater. As a new commissioner, I was concerned about the what seemed to be a strained relationship. Some on the commission said that they didn't really have a problem, but the perception was there that there was a strained relationship between our commission and the sheriff's office. I know how important the sheriff's office is to the law enforcement of Caddo Parish. So I asked for a meeting with the sheriff. He granted that meeting, which included our vice president as well as our president. I thought it was a very fruitful meeting. And some of the questions that I wanted to know, because I was new, was the sheriff's relationship with the commission. What was its function? What was its authority? How was it funded? The diversity of staff. some of the other things that we went into in which the sheriff was very graceful in being as honest, I guess, as he could about it. Some of the other questions, what position does the sheriff department take on the recent political and racial issues facing Caddo Parish in the light of the National Black Lives Matter? I think that it was important to me to know that, because being in law enforcement, we seem to be having a bit of unrest in Caddo Parish, dealing with some of these issues. And I just wanted to know his particular take from an authority standpoint. He was graceful enough to share that with us. His diversity and training, his position on the controversial stranglehold that killed George Floyd, and some of the other issues that we are presently dealing with. So I was pleasantly surprised that he was on top of all of these issues, and that the sheriff department has put in place training that some other departments are just now considering. So hats off to Sheriff Prater and his organization. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Commissioner Burrell. Dr. Wilson, I had you on there. Was it in regards to something that was said, or did you want to go now, or you want to go at the end? Yeah, I'm going to have Vice President Johnson. You go ahead.
Okay, appreciate it, Mr. President. Today we did have a long-range committee meeting. Discussion was on Ordinance 5939 of 2019, which addressed a lot of the UDC changes that we've been working on. We didn't get a chance to get through the whole ordinance. We will convene again in 2 weeks and try to finish it up. We had a lot of discussion on some of the things that the citizens have been bringing to our attention to try to bring a change to the rural areas. So that's basically what took a lot of our time. We did get to pretty much 8.10, which was a major sticking point, dealing with recreational vehicles. The MPC executive director is going to work on some language to bring back the committee, so that if we agree with it, we will then bring it back to the full board to look at. One other thing I want to talk about besides that, Dr. Wilson and Mr. President, I would like to, for us to basically put together some type of committee or task force with the city to talk with them, and to be able to talk with some of the companies that are shutting down, and some of our citizens are losing their jobs. Today, the announcement of the Libby Glass and 500 jobs. You had some of the casinos that's probably up to now about 500 or 600 jobs lost. See if we can sit down with some of those executives to see if there's something that will keep them from shutting the plant down, or do they have options of selling it to another company, and then we can try to see how that other company can come in. But, we just don't want to have these casinos sitting here vacant, and we definitely don't want Libby Glass to sit right in the middle of Shreveport and be vacant and be circled around 4 different communities and become an eyesore. So I think, that's something that we could do as elected officials, to say at least we gave it our best try to make sure that those employers stay here in Shreveport.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Vice President. I agree with that. So thank you, Dr. Wilson, for putting that together. Dr. Wilson, I have you as your hand raised. Did you have something that you wanted to add?
Yes, sir. A couple of things. I just want to let everybody know that our Public Works Director, Mr. Robert Glass, will be retiring September the 4th, 25 years of service. And I will be bringing forth a recommendation sometime in August before you all. But certainly Robert has been he's been our resident expert on oil and gas leases, and we couldn't afford to pay him what we actually owe him. He had written all the language, oversaw the entire process for us from day one. And because of him, we are in a much better position with respect to oil and gas. Never have to hire an outside source to do what he's able to do in-house. So we're going to certainly miss his expertise in a lot of areas, and certainly big shoes to fill, but more to come on that. Also, I was on the phone with the clerk of court office, and Mr. Mike Spencer. He had a couple of concerns. Commissioner Epperson, the concern he had is the legislation about the masks and coming into polling places. And he said they're not going to turn anybody away that come in, perhaps may not have a mask for voting this weekend. And also the social distancing is a challenge for him as well. They will try their best to navigate that. And we had 3 relocated polling places. We will have personnel at the old location as well as the new one to point to where the proper voting places for people that were affected by the change. So other than that, he said he is good to go, but he is concerned about the mask requirement right now.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. I have Commissioner Atkins and then Commissioner Hopkins on the board.
Okay.
I'll have one other thing, Mr. Chairman, too.
All right, I'll add you on there, and I also see Young got back on there, so I'll add both of you on there.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to follow up on Dr. Wilson's comments regarding Saturday's elections and remind the people in the southeast portion of the parish that have historically voted at University Elementary. I want to remind them that University Elementary is having some work being done on their heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. So consequently, that polling location has been temporarily relocated to the LSUS campus, and there'll be signs directing people to the proper building for voting. But just want to make sure the people that usually vote at University Elementary are aware of that change. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Last school year, we had, especially in the rural areas, a huge problem with people trying to do their schoolwork because there's so many areas that's not covered by Wi-Fi or even internet. And so I noticed that the police jury in Bossier has set up a committee, and I would ask that you would get with our IT department and possibly set up a committee to look at rural connectivity.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Commissioner Hopkins, if I could comment on that, sir.
Sure.
I spoke with Dr. Gorey yesterday at a meeting. We talked about that subject, and he was already working on that.
Okay.
And he seemed to have a handle on it and a plan of going forward. He's working with the City of Shreveport IT department, and he's doing some things that will address that issue.
Okay, that will address because we, like I said, up around the Ida,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Area. Okay.
Yeah, I raised a question on how does this going to homeschooling, how does that impact their ability? Because I did talk to my counterpart, Mr. Bill Altman, about the same subject.
Okay.
And what were they doing with respect to Wi-Fi in the rural areas? So I brought it up yesterday with Dr. Gorey, and he said, yeah, here's what we're doing. And it seemed like he has a handle on it. And I said, whatever we can do to help out, please let us know. But he has a plan.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thanks, Commissioner Hopkins.
Dr. Wilson, on that plan, if that plan is similar to what the plan he was doing inside the city limit, it's not going to work. The Cooper Road area, the kids that are around the Peachtree apartments,
mm-hmm.
they couldn't get internet. And so they was told to take their Chromebooks, go by the school, download the information,
okay.
and then take it back home.
Okay.
Everybody doesn't have the luxury to have automobiles. I mean, some
mm-hmm.
people don't have automobiles. So how do you do that? So
okay.
if they're going to use that same thing to do that in the rural area, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Why don't do this? Why don't I invite Dr. Gorey to our next work session, and he can address that issue for us in respect to how they're going to handle that.
He can come to the committee.
The committee, whoever's appropriate.
I got Jefferson.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. I have, for the second time, I have Young, Burrell, and then Epperson. So Commissioner Young, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to respond to something Dr. Wilson said really fast about the masks at polling places. I understand from Ms. Bryant that we got some masks in this week, and I wondered if it was possible for us to take some of those to polling places in advance of the election date to give away if anybody wants them. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
It's a good idea, Commissioner Young. Thank you for that. Commissioner Burrell.
Well, Commissioner Young must have looked on my paper because that was one of the things that I was going to suggest, because I did see the email that said that we had just got masks in, and for those who want to wear them, because you can't force them to wear them at the polling place, I think that would be one of the best places for it. So ditto to you, Commissioner Young, because that was one of my questions. The second one is to Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir.
The last meeting, or should I say work session, I posed a question about the result of the court deal with the Confederate monument, and I understood you said that you were going to get with me, but I haven't heard back. So I would like for you to follow up on that.
Yes, sir, I will.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Epperson.
Yes, sir. In light of the internet situation, if you all recall, I had a citizen that called in working from home. Now, working from home is an issue too with this pandemic. And I'd already asked Mr. Everson that he would contact a representative from Comcast as well as AT&T to be at our next work session relative to internet access in the rural and the areas where it's not real prevalent. And also, NACO has been focusing on this issue for the last 6 or 7 years, and we basically had not paid it any attention. And we should also research NACO. NACO has some programs in place, and they had given us some direction as to how we can access what they call broadband, especially throughout the rural areas. They've been calling for this for years. So I wanted to let you know that also. Also, Mr. Everson, did you have those photos of those blighted properties ready? I'd like for you to post that if you do.
I will go ahead and share those. Okay, this is the first one.
Okay, ladies, fellow commissioners and people in the viewing audience, these are some things that are and can happen in our parish if we don't have a handle on our property standards, as well as educating any persons that live and want to locate in Caddo parishes as to what they can and can't do. If you see that house in the distance there, facing Jefferson Page Road, a lot of houses like that are going up and down Jefferson Page Road, which is going to add to the quality of life and the improvement of property values in our parish. And if you see behind it, there are covenants and restrictions that were in place, but people just willfully neglect it. You go ahead to the next one if we have it. But anyway, just wanted to let you know it can happen. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
If I could I want to just ask a question of Commissioner Epperson, if I may.
Absolutely.
Commissioner, you mentioned Jefferson Page Road, and I can only imagine or understand that these are definitely within the 5-mile buffer. Is that our concern, correct?
No.
So they are out. They are in the parish.
Irrespective to where you are, if you're in the parish or the city, just want to enlighten any persons that are buying and selling that there are restrictions and covenants and things that you can and can't do. The city has property standards department, and the parish also. So anywhere.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Taliaferro. I see no other commissioners on the board. Did anybody else want to speak?
If I could, just before we leave this section, President, if I could just point out that our certificate of teleconference is attached. There's also a notice of intent that's posted for public viewing as well.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Oh, and I'm sorry, we actually have to read the notice of intent into the record. So if you're ready, I'll go ahead and do that.
All right.
Okay, notice of intent. This notice is hereby given that the Caddo Parish Commission of Caddo Parish, Louisiana, the parish, plans to consider ordinances to adopt, levy the parish's ad valorem tax millages for properties within the parish of Caddo at the meeting on Thursday, August 8th, 2020 at 3:30 p.m. At probably Government Plaza building, 505 Travis Street, Shreveport, Louisiana, or if the Zoom locations are continued. At this meeting, the parish will consider adoption of its general purpose millages, special purpose millages, and debt service millages. The parish will also consider adoption of the values fixed or to be fixed by the Louisiana Tax Commission on all assessments for railways and other public service corporations, and consider setting the assessments of property classified as timberlands. That concludes the notice of intent.
Okay. All right, moving on.
That brings us to, previously we read the Confederate Monument petition. It is attached on your agenda here should you need that for reference. And that brings us to the president's report.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. To my commissioners and the citizens, we've been getting a lot of emails, obviously, about masks, overreaching, the city of Shreveport, a lot of stuff. I just wanted to first take this time to say, I work with software for a living, so I'm by no means a medical expert whatsoever about when you should wear a mask and when you shouldn't. However, we have a couple of things on our agenda today where we're going to either vote to mandate or vote to urge. Of course, my vote, you'll see, will be to urge as opposed to mandate. I believe everybody has liberties, and I went to war to fight for that. However, in the same token, when trying to sit and legislate, love your neighbor always comes into my mind. And where we're stuck with is our neighbors are the local salons. My neighbor is the guy that owns the bowling alley. Our neighbors are the people that work at Libby Glass. So I've seen a lot of people who are either mad about being forced to wear a mask or wear the mask. So I want us to get away from that right now and just say that our neighbors are hurting financially. The economy is hurting financially. The city is hurting financially. And I see a lot of people that say, well, they're going to go to Bossier and spend their dollars over there. Our small businesses are hurting horribly. So I want to encourage you, if it makes your neighbor feel better to wear the mask next to them, do it. I may personally not like to wear the mask in certain situations, but if it makes the person feel better next to me, I'm going to do it because I think that's the golden rule. And simultaneously, I'm going to maybe be a little bit discomforted, but I'm going to go to the local restaurant in my district in Southern Hills and make sure that I spend my dollars there as opposed to over the river. We already heard the news that Libby Glass is closing and 500 jobs are going to be leaving us. So we need to do everything we can do in regards to helping where we can help. And that's what I can do personally, is I can be uncomfortable momentarily and go spend my dollars locally. So that's what I'm going to do. And I urge the public to do that. And loving your neighbor doesn't just mean the citizens. Obviously, that means the political officials. I'm going to be having a talk with some of our other political officials that are in our city and ask them to ease some burdens for some business owners that are hurting horribly. I don't think it's fair what's going on. So I'm going to go see what I can do on that and see if we can get some restrictions taken away. I can't promise anything, but I can promise you that I will try. Moving along, I had a lot of people reach out about, obviously we've heard it today, the resolution 51 I had Mr. Randy Beachy reach out and said all 17 residents in Edgewood homeowner subdivision would like us to vote no. I've heard from Francis Kelly, Lauren Jones, Bonita Boundaries, Aaron Berry, Becky Meyer, and Matthew Meyer, and they all said vote no. I haven't heard a single person say, please vote yes on that resolution 51. So I agree with everybody that our water is one of our most precious resources. And I don't think any temporary financial gain should supersede one of our resources that we have in Shreveport. So I too will be voting no on that. I do know that this weekend is an election. A lot of people were confused as to what's on the ballot. We have a great registrar of voters. If you go to caddovoter.org, caddovoter.org, you can see what's on your ballot. You put in your information, it'll pop up specifically what you need to vote on. Specifically for District 10, we have different polling locations this Saturday. So if you don't have the internet, if you can't get on there and you don't know where to go to your old polling place. We have an awesome registrar of voters. They're going to set up signs at our old places to let us know where the new places are. So that just in case you forget anyway, you'll still be able to go over there. Other than that, I yield back to you, Mr. Everson.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to our next item on the agenda, which is the public hearing on ordinances. We have two today. Our first is a hearing on ordinance number 5960 of 2020. An ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund to provide an appropriation for the Salvation Army's Boys and Girls Club for funds remaining at December 31, 2019, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Everson,
I'm sorry.
If this is for public ordinances, this is for
Public hearing.
Okay.
Public hearing on ordinances.
So we'll allow for the public, post a number online so that they can call in if they would either speak for or against. And read the second ordinance, 5962, if you would, Mr. Everson, just to give them the opportunity to hear them both.
Absolutely. And let me, I will state that number a couple of times. Let me just restate the phone number to call in if somebody wants to call is 226-6596. And then the second ordinance is ordinance number 5962 of 2020. It's an emergency ordinance mandating mask or facial covering in certain establishments and public places to provide penalties for the violation of same and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. And those are the two items that we have up for public hearing. So again, if callers would like to call at 318-226-6596 and let us know if you are speaking for or against these items.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Everson.
Okay. While we may be waiting on some public comments via phone, could you ask everyone that's not speaking to please mute, because we're hearing some background noise from somewhere.
Absolutely.
Ask everyone to please mute, even if they are, I guess if they are viewers, you know. Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Seemed like that did. It sounds nice and quiet now.
I think people got their, I think they said their piece. We have not received any additional calls at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Everson. And I will declare this opportunity closed for public hearing, and we will move on to zoning ordinances.
Okay, we have no zoning ordinances or for final passage, so we move on to ordinances for final passage. And it is the two ordinances that we just read for public hearing. That's ordinance number 5960 of 2020, an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund to provide an appropriation for the Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club for funding remaining at December 31.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt by LBJ and seconded by Commissioner Burrell. Vice President, would you like to speak on that motion?
No.
Okay. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
I'm abstaining from this vote for previously stated reasons.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, and that motion does carry with 11 in support and one abstaining. That abstention due to a family member who is a member of the board of that organization. Okay, that brings us to ordinance number 5962 of 2020.
Background noise.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Everett. Go ahead, complete reading. You can complete reading that.
Sure thing. Yeah. Ordinance number 5962 of 2020 is an emergency ordinance mandating masks or facial covering in certain establishments and public places to
Move to
provide.
adopt.
That was a motion to adopt by Commissioner Jackson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Watts. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on that?
I'd like to make a substitute motion to amend to add the amendments that were provided by myself and Commissioner John Paul Young and adopt them and adopt the entire ordinance.
Second.
Okay. I got a substitute
What about
motion.
my amendment?
I didn't see him. Where
I
is it?
think it's already in there.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Are you accepting Vice President's as well?
Correct. I think it was already in the 3 that was mailed out.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Speak on that motion.
Yeah,
No,
it is.
sir.
I see.
Okay. I have Commissioner Atkins on the board.
Thank you, Mr. President. While I'm supportive of encouraging individuals to wear masks, I will not be supporting a mandate demanding that all individuals wear masks. Some of my colleagues may accuse me of being uncaring or of being politically motivated, but I don't view myself as being uncaring, and this is not a political issue. To me, it's based on 2 fundamental beliefs. First, I believe in personal responsibility. Individuals should be responsible for making their own decisions regarding their lives, including their health and the health of their loved ones. Second, I believe in a smaller government. Government should not be overly involved in making decisions for citizens. In the vast majority of the cases, individuals are better positioned to make decisions regarding their own health than is the government. So, guys, I know there's a virus out there, and I know it's the real deal, and I know some of us may get sick, but I don't think anyone really knows the best way to combat the virus. Should we all mask up and hunker down, or should we push through and develop a herd immunity? There are a number of competing views here, and none of us really know with certainty which one is right. But in the meantime, I'm not comfortable mandating the use of masks by our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. I just want to chime in on this conversation. I didn't get a chance to do so yesterday, but I know in our local community, in the construction of the political debate, that tends to be a left and right kind of position. That's fine. Commissioner Atkins just intimated that no one really knows how we should be handling this or what may happen sequentially. But I want to make one reference. The only example that we have of what we're currently dealing with is the influenza virus of 1918, better known as the Spanish flu. It typically lasted from about February of 1918 to April of 1920. About 500 million people affected worldwide, a third of the world's population. There was 4 successive waves associated with this particular virus. Now, the mandate for wearing masks came from the White House all the way down. So that means every state, every county, every city is in lock and step. They even indicated that the police departments, you can see pictures of them wearing masks. All right. So I'm suggesting to you, if we don't know what we're venturing into, this is the only example of what we have from a historical perspective in America to go by. My question to the body is, between 1918 and 2020, a mandate coming down from all levels of government, and they were obeyed. Well, what's going on in 2020 that if we all American patriotic citizens and we are not in normal times, we're in emergency times, what's the difference between then and now? And I leave my fellow commissioners to ponder that. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn. I have Commissioner Burrell, then Watts, then Jackson, then Johnson. Commissioner Burrell.
Well, I'm going to get my first opportunity to call for the questions, Chair.
Okay, and the chair will second that.
Second.
Mr. Everson will do a roll call vote.
What happened? I thought we all had our first round to speak. Oh, the rules changed since the last meeting.
Well,
Yeah, change today. Email. Check email.
I'm going to call on parliamentarian to correct this.
You know that.
Well, as all commissioners know, our commission legal counsel sent out a note last night pointing out the procedures around calling for the question, and our commission documents define that once the question's been called, we have to vote on it, and if 2/3 of a majority want to call for the question, we call for the question. So our sometimes used precedent of letting everybody speak once is not really within our commission documents. That's my understanding of the situation, sir.
But it can be done. But it has to be changed. But the document has to be changed. That's what I understood her to say.
Yes, the documents could be changed.
Okay, we just want to make sure that that's public record. So the next time it happens, we don't allow certain people to talk. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome, Commissioner. Mr. Everson, we will take the roll call vote now, and if 2/3 vote yes, then we will call for the question.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously with 12 in support and none in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Commissioners, now would be a good time to note that we have the Charter Review Committee going on, and Tom Arsenault is the chairman. This would be one of those things that we would recommend to them to change, where if we wanted to allow everybody to speak, that committee puts that into our bylaws.
Actually, the Charter Review Commissioner, this is council, that would be up to the commission. That would not be in the purview of the Charter Review.
Amen.
It's just a bylaw amendment.
Vote.
Okay. Are we ready for the roll call vote?
Go for it.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins.
On 5962, is that
Yeah,
correct?
this is on 5962 with the 4 amendment.
No.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
No.
Commissioner Atkins,
No.
Commissioner Chavez,
No.
Commissioner Lazarus,
No.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries with 7 in support and 5 in opposition. And that brings us to ordinances for introduction by title. We have one ordinance for introduction by title, and Ordinance number 5961 of 2020. It's an ordinance amending and reenacting sections 4-61 and 4-61.1 and enacting sections 4-63, 4-64, and 4-65, all of Chapter 4 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo pertaining to permits for the sale of alcoholic beverages and alcoholic beverage handling cards and otherwise pertaining with respect thereto. Okay, moving on to work session minutes.
Got a motion to
So
accept the
moved.
work session.
Second.
I got a motion to adopt by Commissioner Watt, second by Commissioner Hopkins. That passes by acclamation.
Okay, that brings us to resolutions. The first one we have to consider is resolution number 51 of 2020. It's a resolution to authorize the Caddo Parish Administrator to request and authorize the Louisiana State Mineral and Energy Board and the Office of Mineral Resources to accept nominations and advertise for oil, gas, and mineral.
Move to remand this to the Natural Resource Committee.
I have, give me one, Commissioner, I saw John Atkins' hand up there first. John Atkins, did you want to make a motion? No? Okay.
I'm good with the route that Stephen's proposed.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Stephen Jackson, and who is that second?
Talaferro.
Okay, Talaferro. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on that?
No.
All
No,
right.
sir.
I see Commissioner Vice President on.
Yes, okay. I just wanted to say that I think the public has been misled on this particular deal. As property owners around Cross Lake, those property owners were given letters a long time ago about drilling on Cross Lake. Out of 3,840 acres, the parish only owns 43 acres. So we're basically talking about 43 acres out of 3,800 acres. If the property owners have already pretty much agreed to drilling in their area, then if we don't vote or we vote no, the drilling will still happen. So it's not like we own all the property around the lake. The public need to be talking, or should have been talking to the property owners. They are the majority of interest of what's going on. It doesn't really need to go to the Natural Resource Committee because we're only talking about 43 acres. If we don't do anything, it still can happen. Most of the property owners in that area have already signed with somebody. So therefore, it's just a moot point. Only thing this would do is just say that the parish would not get any of the bonus money that for signing on. I've heard a lot of comments today, and it tells me that our public is not well in tune on what's been going on in the past with oil and gas and with drilling. We already have one well already under Cross Lake. So this won't be the first one. I heard many comments about don't do this because it's going to affect our water. Well, we already have one. There's already one there. And if you drive along Huey Huckabee, you'll see a well sitting right there at Huey Huckabee and Russell Road. What you also see that nobody has talked about, and he's talking about preserving our water, protecting our water. You got a landfill that was sitting there that was just closed a couple of years ago. So where was all this outcry when the landfill was burning, when the landfill was getting all this stuff that was supposed to be taken somewhere else, was taken there illegally? Where was the public then? It's very upsetting to me that all of a sudden we're talking about 43 acres and it's a big outcry as opposed to a landfill that's sitting in the Black community, as opposed to the property owners who own the majority of the land and nobody said anything to them. This should have went out a long time ago to people to cry out to say property owners on Cross Lake don't sign it. The parish only has a small percentage of the property, and it's probably nowhere close to the lake. And if you go down North Lakeshore Drive and turn down 2nd Street to the right, and you go down that road, you'll see wells all along it, and that's in Lakeview, the community of Lakeview. You got wells already down there too as well, and they're actually at a much shallow well than the Haynesville Shale. This is at the Cotton Valley Shale, if I'm not mistaken. So there's already wells, and if you go down here, we hook up a little bit closer to Hearn, you see another well sitting there that when it floods, that whole area floods, all that oil goes back into the water. So it's already there. And so we end up with 15, 20 minutes worth of calls about we shouldn't be doing this and we should be preserving the water. And the wells are already there. We're not doing anything no different. And I was trying to figure out where our property was in this 3,840 acres. And Robert Glass didn't have enough time to identify all the different pieces of it. But at the same time, it's not that much. And if we don't do anything, it still can happen. So it's not our choice wholeheartedly. It's the property owners that are around Cross Lake. Thank you. That's all I got. And I'll be voting no on the substitute motion.
I got Commissioner Cawthorn next.
Good evening, Commissioners. Hey, I do agree with Commissioner Johnson. However, I had 3 conversations with some citizens today about this very thing, and they have confused the issue, obviously. And what typically happens as elected officials, people will come to you emotionally and not understand everything that's going on. And so I think under this scenario, I'm in favor of pumping the brakes just a little bit. If it's no more than making the public understand what it is we're doing today. And I explained to one constituent that we're not voting on drilling anything today. What we're voting on is giving the administration of Caddo the permission to enter into a lease with the Haynesville LLC Corporation. But in all 3 of those conversations, all I got out of that was, y'all are interrupting our water supply. That's the only water supply we have. We will be like the people in Phoenix. We will be like the people in Flint. And so, having said all that and having heard that discourse today, I think we can pump the brakes, educate the public a little bit more, and then see how we move from there. Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Telefaro. You muted.
He's muted.
You're muted.
How about now? Okay, good deal. Commissioner, I do agree with Commissioner Cawthorn that, I did speak with Mr. Glass, and obviously there is both various and numerous restrictions and safety precautions associated with drilling any well. And I understand that, based on the feedback that I've gotten and many of you have gotten, I think there's a genuine concern, regardless if it's perceived or real, of even about even the remote possibility of any contamination of our primary water supply. So I'm going to agree with pushing it to the Natural Resources Committee, but I'd like to see a map, because I don't know where these wells are going to be located. And you're right, Commissioner Johnson, that there are a variety of wells out there, and some are shallow, some are not so shallow. So anyway, I think we should do our due diligence on any, to be good stewards of any resources that, again, we're entrusted with. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Taliaferro. Commissioner Hopkins.
Is Mr. Glass on?
No, sir. He's dealing with a ill family member. He couldn't be on today.
Okay, I guess my question was whether the Natural Resource Department had already issued permits and approvals for these leases.
I'm not sure. We'll have to get that answer for you, but I'm quite sure that they're already leased the areas to be drilled, as Commissioner Johnson said.
Right.
And whether or not you all vote this or not today will not delay the process.
Okay, that was my other question. If we move this to committee, would it put a hardship on the parish as far as this?
What's at stake here, commissioners? I believe there's $100,000 in lease bonus money and 20% royalty. So I don't think that will cause a hardship on us. But certainly you have to decide whether or not you want to go forward or not. But if you choose not to go forward, it will not inhibit the state's ability to go forward with the drilling operation because it's under state rules and regulations.
Okay, well, from the guy that grew up riding an oil well in his backyard, it's hard for me not to move forward, but I can agree with to postpone it until it goes to committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Hopkins. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm on there too.
I got you, Commissioner Burrell. Right after Atkins.
I agree with much of what with all my colleagues, what they've said to date. LBJ hit a lot of the key points I felt. Again, we're only talking about 43 acres that are scattered throughout the 6 units that are targeted. And so that acreage goes under the parish roads. So
Right.
It's not like it's in any one central location. It
That's
weaves
correct.
through those units underneath the roads. And that it represents 1%, as Commissioner Johnson mentioned, it represents 1% of all the acreage that's attempting to be leased. So therefore, we are not driving the show here. And to Commissioner well, I had another thought that I was going to address, but it'll have to come back to me. But also, there are no surface locations here. You know, our leases prohibit surface locations, so it's not like we're going to have a surface location on parish grounds. So I think we'll be good there. But I'm happy to have other people talk it out in committee, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Burrell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I dealt with this issue from the council standpoint and from the state standpoint. The property that we're talking about around the lake, first of all, I'm not sure whether or not we had any public hearings on there. I think the people that you heard today expressed their views because we are in a public forum and they brought those issues here. And yeah, we are a minor player in this, but I'm hoping at some point that the public will have more input into this. I'm not for getting the revenue or what have you, but since the drilling and everything that has taken place here in Shreveport started some years ago, fracking has become an issue, and fracking is such a national issue. Many places have been shut down. I don't know how any more safe that they have become since much of the new reports have come out on fracking. That's what I'm really, really concerned about. One of the reasons why I pushed to build another corridor through the inner city was because of the toxic waste that sometimes comes across our interstate system, where we could have an on-land thoroughfare that we can control so that none of this toxic would go over the 220 bridge and fall into our water supply, which would probably eliminate that for the next 20 or more years. I think we as leaders need to discuss this more. I can support taking it to a committee, but I think it's more in depth than what we're talking about here. And I think we may need some more public input, although much of the property around the lake, I'm sure, is private and they have their rights. But the lake is a public lake, and the public should have their right to have their input. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Jackson, I have you on the board. Stephen, you there?
That must have been an accident.
Okay. LBJ, I got you on there. If you're going to call for the question, I want to say something. I don't want to.
No, I'm not finna call for the question.
Okay.
I'm finna address something that I heard Commissioner Barrera say. So, I mean, all the other locations that drill for oil and gas in Caddo Parish, I haven't heard the outcry for that. This is, yes, on Cross Lake, or close by Cross Lake. The parish portion is the roads and probably some adjudicated property somewhere located up in there. But I guarantee you that the parish does not have lakefront property that's adjudicated, other than right away from the roads. That's owned by private property owners. The city of Shreveport owns Cross Lake. So, based upon that, I mean, we're just basically just kicking the can down the road and saying, well, if we take it to the Natural Resource Committee whenever they meet, and depending on when they're going to try to do this other deal, it's basically either going to be a no vote on our part, or it's going to be a vote that you miss out on a portion of money, revenue that would go into oil and gas, that you would try to utilize it to benefit the citizens of Shreveport. If the commissioners took that same kind of very ultra conservative notion a long time ago, the parish right now will be poor. And we'll be talking about, we don't have any funds, we don't have any money, we need help. But they didn't take that option. And there was probably some fallout of citizens complaining about oil and gas. And this one didn't, I don't know if it even talked about fracking. We adding to the conversation. It just says drilling. It could be fracking. It might not be fracking.
Okay.
So you adding the possibilities of different things. It could be just a regular oil and gas well that's sitting out 15 acres, 20 acres away from it. Yes, it could be in the watershed, but there again, there are already so many different wells in the Caddo Cross Lake watershed. So by adding one more, I mean, I don't really see the real harm of that, but that's fine, because like I said earlier, the private property owners are the majority on this particular one, and whether we do anything or not, all it is going to be lost revenue if we don't. Thank you.
Thanks, VP. Commissioners, the reason I'm voting no, but I was going to vote no on the original, but I'll vote yes to go to the committee is, I don't know a lot about oil and gas. It's not what I do for a living, but I heard probably about 30 people that told me vote no. I didn't hear a single person that said vote yes. And I see what you're saying. I'm thankful that the parish of Caddo had the Haynesville Shell and we had the money when it happened, but that Haynesville Shell wasn't over Cross Lake, and the comments about it's just around the lake, those people are going to allow for it. If we have a catastrophe and it goes into the water, then that affects the entire city of Shreveport. So I see why people are scared, and I think as public officials, it would be better than us just voting yes against the will of the 30 people that we heard today. Move it to a committee. And if our job is communication and to allow the citizens to feel comfortable with it, and they learn that it's going to be drilled to 800 feet below the water, and the water only goes down 12 feet, and there's no possible way that it can spill into the lake, and they're comfortable with it and they accept it, I think at the end of the day, we will all win. Sure, it may take an extra 2 weeks for us to get there, but if we have enough people saying no, which we do, I think we owe them the right to just go to a committee, show them the facts, and move on from there. So I'd like us to do that. So I'll be voting on Commissioner Jackson's substitute motion. Commissioner Jackson, I see you on the board.
Call for a question on the previous motion.
Second.
State the motion, restate the motion, please.
Call for the question.
This is a call for the question.
Oh, okay.
Right, to send it to Natural Resources Committee.
All right, I call for the question in a second. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Johnson, Jackson,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Cawthorn,
Yes.
Gage Watts.
Yes.
Okay. Taliaferro,
Yes.
Atkins,
Yes.
Chavez,
Yes.
Lazarus.
Yes.
Okay. And Epperson.
Yes.
Okay, I heard 11 in support and 1 out of the chamber. But if I heard wrong, somebody please let me know. I think it was only Commissioner Johnson I didn't hear. Is that
You're correct.
okay? That brings
Did
us.
you hear me?
I did. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank
I
you.
did. I got you recorded as a yes vote, and that motion does carry. So that brings us to the previous motion, which I'll restate for you is motion from Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Taliaferro, remanding Resolution 51 to the Natural Resources Committee. And Hopkins,
Yes.
Johnson,
After this vote, man.
Jackson.
Yes.
No.
Oh, okay, you got a no and then a yes on Jackson, was that right?
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Cawthorn,
Yes.
Gage Watts. Not hearing you. Okay, Commissioner Taliaferro.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
That motion carries with 11 in support and 1 in opposition. And that brings us to resolution number 52 of 2020. It's a resolution urging and requesting area realtors to inform prospective buyers of property standards ordinances, restrictive covenants, and
Move for
neighborhood.
adoption.
Got a motion by Commissioner Epperson. Who was that second?
Jackson.
I'll second it.
Okay, got second by Vice President. Commissioner Epperson, did you want to speak on that motion?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins,
No.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
No.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries with 10 in support and 2 in opposition. And that brings us to resolution number 53, a resolution of final acceptance of state project number H.013389.6.
Move to adopt resolution 53 and 54.
Second.
All right, got a motion by Vice President to adopt 53 and 54. And I apologize, I didn't hear that second. Who was that second?
Jackson.
Got it. All right, Commissioner Vice President Johnson, you want to speak on that motion?
No, sir.
No? All right. Mr. Everson,
Mr. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Young. I didn't hear that
Yes.
response. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously with 12 in support and none in opposition. So that brings us to resolution number 55, a resolution urging and requesting Caddo Parish residents to wear masks and maintain appropriate social distancing while interacting with members of the public during COVID-19 pandemic and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Move to remove from the agenda.
Okay.
Got a motion to
Second.
from Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner Lazarus. Commissioner Jackson, you want to speak on that?
I just think that the ordinance that we passed kind of makes this a moot issue.
I agree. I see no other
Exactly.
commissioners on the board. Mr. Everson,
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts, and Commissioner Talaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
That motion passes with 12 in support and none in opposition. And that brings us to resolution number 56 of 2020. It's a resolution enacting a COVID-19 threat level system within Caddo Parish and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Move to adopt with a,
Second.
That was a lot of hideous motions. VP, since you're the author, I'm going to give you the motion, and Commissioner Hopkins, you seconded that?
I heard Commissioner Young, but
Young, okay, I got him up there. All right, Commissioner.
Yeah.
John, want to speak on that motion?
Yeah, I wanted to adopt it with the amendment on the committee that will be the threat level, and the committee will consist of the president, the vice president, and administration coming from the Caddo Parish Commission, the mayor, the chairman of the city council, and the vice chair, public health region 7 representatives from Willis Knighton, Krista Shumpert, Oshners, LSU, and the VA, and the director and deputy director of Homeland Security.
Okay.
Second.
All right, got a second on that. And then you want to speak on that motion?
Yes. Basically, when you look at most of your disasters and whether it be natural or what we're in now as a pandemic, there's different threat levels. And the state is utilizing level 1, 2, and 3. But as a community of our parish, we can actually have a threat level ourselves. And like I mentioned the other day, we can't go below what the governor says in the executive order, but we can either stay at that same level or go a step above, depending on if we're actually the hot zone. And so I think it's up to us as local leaders to take the lead on this particular matter with the help of our public health representatives so that we'll know real-time information and we won't be waiting on information to come from Baton Rouge to come back up here. This is something we do when we have natural disasters. It's a different committee. I omitted quite a few people because basically they won't really have too much input on this. And so I think this is something that we need as a parish. And I believe that everyone will work together to do this in the right manner. I know some of my colleagues are against it, but for the most part, I think it's something we need to do. When you look at the weather, Channel 3, 6, and 12, they all have weather threat and they use color codes. And people can associate with color codes knowing that this is what that means. And when you say, tell somebody they need to wear a mask, well, why do I need to wear a mask? Well, if you give them a threat level to go along with it, they'll understand why they're wearing the mask. So just hope that you will support this. It doesn't cost the parish a dime. There's no fines associated with this part of it. So putting the policy together, putting it in black and white, eliminate any of the gray issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. I got Commissioner Hopkins and Jackson. Go ahead, Commissioner Hopkins.
Yeah, I had originally sent out earlier today a suggestion for an amendment to utilize the parish committee, Homeland Security Committee, as the person or the group to designate. But I see that Mr. Johnson has added, he has most of these, but has added some, and they are involved in healthcare. I think we're a little heavy on elected officials, but I think we'll work through that. Like most committees, not everybody's available. I will not make this amendment. I will not add this amendment. I will support his amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hopkins. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I just like with Commissioner Johnson, if I could add a friendly amendment to add Mr. Knox Andrews. He's the Region 7 Hospital Administrator for this region.
I'll second that one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Did you want to speak on that, Commissioner?
He's the guy who, of course, a lot of the hospital systems, they get busy. And it sounds like the people that he called off are already on that Homeland Security Committee. I know Knox is usually there representing all of the hospitals. He can speak with ventilator capacity. He can speak about hospital bed capacity. And he communicates throughout the different hospital systems for Region 7.
Cool. Okay. Thank you for that. Commissioner Taliaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm all in favor of a threat level document. I just want to be clear that in passing this, we are saying that we are adopting the Harris County, Texas model, correct? And the verbiage it contains?
This is actually the Caddo Parish. I just use them as a template. But this
Okay,
is
so the template,
Parish.
Okay, so my question then is you took basically the same verbiage in Harrison County and actually made it a Caddo Parish template, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I started out with theirs and I tweaked it some.
Okay, so I'm all for all the entities and all the people, all the offices that are going to be involved in along with this document. I was under the impression that we would take the document, and this is what I would like to see. We take the document and use it as a starting point of discussion. And then all these people that are coming together, then we can make appropriate changes, bring it back to the commission, and then we vote on it. There may be things that other people don't like the verbiage in this, and I don't want to pass something and it be locked in. And if that's not the case, I'm okay with it. But I think once we pass it, we're saying the verbiage stays. Am I not correct in assuming that?
No, you are, Commissioner.
My deal is we are the policymakers. So we need to put a policy out. Now, as we meet and people say, well, we might need to change this, and that, we can then bring that back as the president, vice president can bring that back to the commission and say, these are some of the things that the committee might say that doesn't work or we might need to change. But I mean, we are elected to do policies. We are elected to be the legislators for Caddo Parish and not everybody else. I mean, it's fine to have their input on things, but if Harris County, they have the same setup over there, more people, and so I'm quite sure that document had already been hit 1,000 different ways on how can we make this thing work. So I took that as a template, changed a few things around, and then supplied it for Caddo.
Mr. President, may I address?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I understand. I understand, Commissioner, and I do appreciate your effort. No doubt about it. And like I say, I am for some kind of a metric as far as the threat level system. I'm concerned that there's mandatory language in here, and if we pass it, then it becomes the law, so to speak. And once we pass it, then it goes out to the public. And then if there's verbiage in there that the public may not like, then what do we need all these other people for? You know, if we're gonna make this policy and this is where we stand, what do we need these other people to even have a buy-in? What's their purpose? I thought their purpose was to contribute. That's all.
They're gonna contribute to the level of the threat.
Okay, but not to the writing of the document.
No, I guess I'm misunderstanding our role as commissioners, and I'm misunderstanding. Do we just sit around and wait till somebody else do something and then we react to what they do? Why we can't take the lead and do things and then bring people on board based on what we've already done? I mean, that's what my perception of a commissioner is. We make policies, laws, however you want to call them, and then we take it out. Now, if there's pushback, we can always adjust it. A law is not always the same. It can change over a period of time, but you need to at least put something out. Otherwise, you ain't done nothing. You just sitting here pushing the button, yes or no, and going home. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
What we're going to be voting on is the template, and then the template of the levels. When we get to the point where the board's going to pick what level are we currently at, we're actually writing the template right now. So, but Commissioner Telfair, you still have the floor. I don't want to take any of your thunder.
No, I mean, I understand our challenge, and I understand what we're charged with. I'm just a strong proponent that if we're going to be charged with creating a document, then we get as much input as possible to create a document that we don't have to go back and change. That's the only reason. And if I'm mistaken on what our responsibility as a commission is, and I believe it is to create good legislation, and get the most information that we can, the most up-to-date information we can, the most feedback that we can, to create a document that is going to be pretty rock solid. You know, that's my goal. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm good.
I got you, Vice President. I'm going to put you on. I still have Atkins and Burrell.
Is it me, Mr. President?
I want to, Commissioner Talaferro, do you yield the floor back to us?
No, I'm good, Mr. President.
Okay.
I appreciate the dialogue. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Atkins, you go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I love my colleague LBJ, but I don't necessarily agree with this approach. I like the idea of having a threat level monitor that tracks key inputs and shows the level of risk involved. But again, back to my earlier stated themes of individual responsibility and personal decision making, you know, I'd like to be able to use that information that we provide to make my own personal decisions about whether I'm going to go to the store or not go to the store, whether I'm going to keep my restaurant open or not keep my restaurant open. But the way the legislation, the proposed legislation is currently structured, there are a number of mandatory actions. And so with the mandatory actions, I'm yielding my own decision-making capability to a committee that may or may not have any idea about the true issues I'm facing in my personal life or my personal business situation. So for those reasons, I won't be supporting it because of the mandatory actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. I got you, Commissioner Everson. I got you after Commissioner Burrell.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I like both positions between what Commissioner Talaferio is saying and Commissioner Johnson, who brought this piece of legislation forward, couldn't there be a compromise where we can establish this framework through voting, subject to, and it being a fluid document that as we learn better, we do better from that perspective? Because I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Commissioner Jackson just named the person that was added as an amendment, that if we were locked in with just the ones that was added by Commissioner Johnson, then that would be the group that would be part of it. Couldn't that same thing also be applied to the language in the ordinance itself, where it could be fluid enough that it could be tweaked? That's my question.
Thank you,
That would be a
Commissioner.
compromise.
I believe you pose a wonderful compromise.
Is that to me?
You're on the board, and then
Is that question to me?
Yeah,
No.
that could be addressed to you, Commissioner Johnson. I was looking at it as a compromise.
give me one moment, VP. I got Jackson on there next.
Okay.
Is it on me?
Is he in?
Jackson has spoken, hadn't he?
I called for the question.
Okay.
Second.
Well, I'm sorry, Commissioner Epperson and LBJ. We got to call for the question.
I second the call for question.
I second it. Yeah, I already second it. So.
Got it. All right. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
No.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
No.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Been going on. Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries with 10 in support and 2 in opposition. And so
All right.
that is enough to bring us back to the ordinance before it, which I'm going to restate this to make sure we know what we're voting. And then if I've heard something incorrectly because it was a substitute motion, please somebody correct me. But I believe that what we are voting on is adoption of resolution 56, including the amendment as amended with an amendment establishing a committee that was listed by Commissioner Johnson.
Point of information.
We got a point of information.
I'm sorry, what was that, Commissioner Johnson?
Also include the Mr. Knox, but include his position or the
Knox Andrews.
The
Knox
office that he comes out.
Yeah, that was right. I'm sorry, that was the suggestion to add to the committee from Commissioner Jackson. Yes, I
Yeah.
have that.
Region 7
Yeah, but not the
Hospital
person itself, but the administrator, not the individual, but the position.
Yes, sir. Okay, I do
Okay.
have that down correctly then. Okay, so are we ready for the roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
No.
Commissioner Atkins,
No.
Commissioner Chavez,
No.
Commissioner Lazarus,
No.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries with, it looks like 8 in support and 4 in opposition, unless I heard anybody wrong.
No, that's right.
Great. Okay. That's our final item under resolutions. That we do not have anything on the agenda today for old business. That brings us to new business, where we do have 2 different, two appointments to consider. One
Move
appointment.
to
the
approve both appointments.
Second.
Got a motion to approve both appointments by Commissioner Everson, second by Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Everson, would you like to speak on that motion?
That was Jackson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on that motion?
No, sir.
All right. I see no one on the board. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Talaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously with 12 in support and none in opposition. That brings us to citizens' comments, late arrivals. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Okay, I'm sorry. I think somebody had some background noise that was interfering, but okay. So we're at citizens' comments, late arrivals. I have received some additional comments regarding, and quite a few regarding resolution 51. So I will. Do you want me to just start reading them, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Deputy Clerk Nations, if you could start the timer for me as well, just so we make sure we don't go over that time limit. Okay, our first comment, let's see, comes from, says, I urge you to vote no on resolution 51. Having a safe source for water is essential to having a decent living environment. We've already seen what companies are capable of in reference to the bottom line. I'm a firm believer in the notion that money means very little in the face of contamination and/or operations disasters.
Mr. Everson.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Are all these comments that you're about to read for 51?
They are.
I'd like to make a motion, commissioners, if we can move the citizens' comments to the beginning of the committee meeting so that we can hear them while we address this in the committee meeting that we're going to hear it at.
Second.
I'll second that.
No, I said it first. Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Reason being, obviously, it'll be fresh in our mind of who said what. And I think we need to address it at the time when we're going to vote for that specific ordinance. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Yes.
I fully support your suggestion there, but could we ask the legal counsel, Ms. Frazier, for an opinion just to make sure that's allowable?
Yes.
Commissioner, that would be fine as long as they are made a part of the record of today's meeting. They need to be included in the minutes.
Okay.
And you know, because of the high volume of public comments today, we are going to prepare a special document that summarizes everything for y'all. So we will be including them in today's minutes as well.
Hey.
Do we need to make a motion to add them to the official record?
No.
Okay.
That's a given.
Okay. Are we ready for the roll call vote now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins. I didn't hear you. Commissioner Johnson.
No.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts. Okay, Commissioner Gage Watts, I didn't hear you if you responded. Commissioner Talaferro.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I did hear you then. Okay, Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
That motion passes with 10 in support, 1 in opposition, and 1 out of the chamber. And that brings us to communiques and committee reports.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. I have Commissioner Burrell, Commissioner Jackson, and then Commissioner Epperson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to go back and redress something that you had said earlier, not necessarily in opposition to what you're saying, but it concerns me. I'm not sure if we're still making the public concerned enough about this COVID virus. I watch national news all the time, and I'm not sure if we're aware of the fact that that COVID has started to mutate, and it's mutating into an airborne virus, which it appears that it has gone from one where they only talk about droplets to it being airborne, almost like catching a cold, which makes it even more dangerous. And the latest information on this, I think is important to the public. The reason why I feel that masks are almost absolutely necessary now. And the idea that we would make comments that, and people are, and there are those that they're saying that, but personally, just like your views, I may take a different view. I think it's very political. I believe that if the President of the United States would have said wear masks, we'll all be wearing masks today. I don't, I have no question about that, regardless of what our personal views are. But that is not the case, and it is filtered on down. And so I'm not here to lie to myself, and I'm definitely not going to lie to the public. I think it is quite political. And making a statement that the people who are rushing over the Bossier to go and eat at restaurants because they don't have a mask requirement, I really think it's kind of, I hate to say it's kind of ludicrous to me. I can do the same thing because I go to Bossier quite often and eat over there at their restaurant, but knowing that they're going to have unsafe people because they don't wear masks because of political reasons or whatever their reasons are to help safeguard me, then I'm not going to spend my money over in Bossier. So, there's two sides to that issue. I may suggest that the people in Bossier who's concerned about COVID and being in a safe place where people will wear masks until they get in, they can all come to Shreveport and eat at all the Shreveport restaurants, along with the people in Shreveport. I can make that argument. So I don't go along with these threats. We are in a very dangerous situation, and we must safeguard ourselves as well as others. So under the circumstances, that's pretty much how I view it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to get clarification. I wasn't suggesting that we go to Bossier. I'm suggesting that's what people are saying, and that we try to stay in Shreveport and support our businesses. I don't know if you.
But I think there's a lot of people in Shreveport and probably in Bossier who is concerned about this deal because people are dying every day. I was at Taylor's restaurant, and 11 of the 12 people who were in the van, family members, died after the Kajik convention. That's serious, and that was 3 months ago. So things has only gotten worse. They haven't gotten better. So can you imagine 11 out of 12 of your family members dying? So it's serious, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, keeping in that same line, I just want to say that, it does something to you when, because I'm out at these community COVID testing sites. It does something to you when you see over at Cherokee Park, when we were at Cherokee Park Elementary, a young family come through, and the kids are crying because the dad had gone to the hospital due to COVID, and they got the call saying that the dad ended up dying. Young family, 2 kids, and now you got a single mother now who has to raise those 2 children on her own. So there's some reality and some perspective that you get when you see things like this. So I want to continue to encourage folks, just do the right thing. You know, I want to also clarify some things that were misstated from the meeting on yesterday. I'm not saying, I never said that the sheriff was against a mask mandate. What I said was the sheriff said that he did not have the manpower to enforce a mask requirement, and that he would get to it when he could, or his officers would get to it when they could. So I never said that the sheriff was against the mask mandate or a mask requirement. I also want to give some perspective. Is Dr. Wilson still on, or is Ms. Bryant here?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, Doc. Who writes our code enforcement violations? Is that the sheriff's office?
No, in terms of what property standards.
Yes, is that a post-certified law enforcement officer that writes our property standards violations?
Yes, sir, it is.
So they're post-certified.
Yes, sir.
And they're law enforcement officers that write our property standards violation.
Yes, sir. He was certified by Sheriff Prater.
Okay. What about our animal service ACOs? Are they post-certified law enforcement officers?
Yes, sir. They're some of my graduates of the Sheriff's Academy.
Okay. What about when the zoning administrator has to send people out to do zoning enforcement? Are they post-certified law enforcement officers?
Typically, sometimes we will send out our road enforcement person with the inspector.
Mm-hmm.
If it requires that degree of attention.
Okay. What about our road enforcement, our vehicle unit folks? Are they law enforcement post-certified?
Yes, sir. He is.
Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is there are individuals that work within parish government that are not directly a part of the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Department that can be utilized, or instead of us just hiring people, because that takes a process, we could contract a temporary service out to do that. And I think there was some confusion, and I got some calls from a media outlet, and I would not respond to them because I think they were trying to intentionally sort of twist my words. And so I'm not saying that we would have a private company go out and arrest people. I want to be clear about that. I just want to encourage folks in Caddo Parish. We're already looking at the Big Ten has announced that they're only going to go to conference play. We've got a month to get this right, or we're going to be looking at, what do we do during football season? And so we've got to get these numbers back down. And if we want our economy to get back to where it is, let's flatten the curve. Let's do what we need to do so we can get back to some sense of normalcy. And without that, we're going to continue to be playing on defense with this virus. I'm headed to the gym right now. My gym trainer, he requires us to have a mask on when we come in. And so it is what it is. And when I go to the farmers market, if they're down there and the people don't have on a mask and they're providing stuff, I don't put my money with them. And I think that's what we need to start encouraging folks to do. If people are not going to ensure your safety, don't spend your money with them. Go somewhere else. Take the power of your dollar, the value of your dollar somewhere else. I want to encourage everybody to stay safe, and let's continue to fight the coronavirus. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Epperson.
Mr. Everson, I just want to emphasize the fact to invite a representative from Comcast and AT&T at our next work session. Did you read me, sir? Hello?
He may be on mute. Deputy Nations, can you hear Commissioner Epperson?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Jeff's having some issues with his mute button. We're having some problems here.
We'll
but
get that
he heard.
Okay, and also Dr. Wilson, you said you're going to invite Dr. Gorey also?
Yes, sir. I'm going to endeavor to invite him to come in to talk about the broadband and the rural areas, how they deal with kids' education.
Well, that's why I want the Comcast and AT&T, because they provide those services, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we have everybody in the room. Also, when we're talking about going to Bossier to shop because you don't have no mask. I tell you somebody you need to think about. You need to think about our military personnel that's over there ready, willing, and able to provide our national security at a moment's notice. And you feel it's too hot and it inconveniences you to wear a mask. Think about our brothers and sisters that's over in Afghanistan, over in Iraq, and other places that we don't know nothing about, in a submarine in those cramped quarters that has to go through that. And if you think this a play, the Theodore Roosevelt just came in the port at San Diego today. Ask them if that was for real or was it anybody playing, with over 1,500 of them getting contact. And you can't get out of an air-conditioned car, put a mask on your face, walk in the air-conditioned store, walk back out the door and pull it off and get in your car. That's an inconvenience to you. Think about the sons and daughters that's getting ready to go to Fort Hood with our National Guard unit for their 2-week summer camp. You know what the temperature is in Texas now? And down at Fort Polk the same way. Think about all that gear that they have on. They have to be masked up. And you feel that your rights are being infringed because you put on a little paper mask for 5 or 10 minutes. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Earlier, one of my colleagues, whom I respect very much, said that that we're here to make legislation, and that if we're not making legislation, we're just punching yes and no, and we're not doing anything. Well, making legislation is part of the job, but also ensuring that inappropriate legislation is not made or unnecessary legislation is not made. Those are equally important. Sometimes I feel that our society has developed too much legislation, too many laws, too many rules. And I'm a rule follower. I don't think anyone would ever define me as a rebel. But when it comes to legislation, I think we should think very carefully before we put additional legislation in the books. So I would disagree that if you're not making legislation, you're not doing your job. I think helping to ensure that we only have relevant legislation or appropriate legislation is just as important. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Young, and then Watts. I think Young may have fallen off. Commissioner Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to respond also. I didn't get to speak earlier, so I just wanted to make some responses to some of the citizens that called in. You know, we have a duty to make the best decisions for everyone. Health officials has said in order to maintain the progress we've made, it's up to all employers and employees to embrace their roles in this crisis. Businesses are now the new frontline workers. We are still in a pandemic. Nothing has changed. There's no cure, there's no vaccine, and many people are wearing no masks. We are responding to a public health crisis, and nothing is as usual. It's up to us to protect us from going back to phase 1. We cannot afford to go back. I'd rather spend a moment uncomfortable in a mask than fighting for my life on a ventilator. That's unfair to put our most vulnerable population in a harmful situation. If the healthcare workers are unable to provide patient care, and essential workers are unable to open the stores because they've been affected, we failed them by not keeping them safe during this pandemic. Businesses do not serve citizens without shirts or shoes because it's an unhealthy environment. The same applies if you're not wearing a mask. I walked in St. Vincent Mall and walked right back out because no one was wearing a mask. We are all learning through this constantly evolving situation. We do not have all of the answers. But we do know what works, and that is wearing a mask, that is washing your hands and practicing social distancing. We needed this mandate to help stop the spread, standing up to help save lives, and take the responsibility to make that enforcement, to have Caddo citizens to mask up. I thank the commissioners who supported this mandate, and I respect the ones of you who made your own decision not to. But I think the majority of us did the right thing for the citizens of Caddo Parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Stormy. I didn't see anybody else on there. Commissioner Burrell, I agree with you on that threat level. I actually voted no for the call for the question. I like the fact that you wanted to meet in the middle, and I've acknowledged that you often do that many, many times. So I would have liked to seen that gone to Policy and Procedures Committee, but unfortunately we didn't. But we will be here another day. One thing I want to touch on, we had, and I see Commissioner Everson got off, but we had the constables down here the other day, and I wanted to clear up something. One of the JPs sent me that the ordinance changed section 3054 in regards to enforcement. One of the statements was that the reason that the constables were having a harder time doing their job was because the JPs were not practicing the enforcement. Did some research. That enforcement was actually changed from the JPs over to the Director of Public Works or his designee shall be authorized to issue a citation or notice of violation. This was done January of 2015. So a lot of us that are currently on the commission were not here then. I was not here then. So this is, maybe Henry, if you can send this out to the current commission list so that they know that it's not the JPs that are enforcing the violations. It's actually the Director of Public Works. And then upon that, it goes to the First Judicial District Court. So the JPs are out of it altogether. So I wanted to make sure that that information was pushed out there. Other than that, I have nothing else, and I see no other commissioners on the board. If I can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Have a great evening.